Alright, I'm with Mark Hillyer. Mark, you're in California, is that right?
That's correct. LA area.
What, LA area, so that's Southern California. There we go, full screen. Alright. Were you born and raised here?
No, I was actually born here, but left as a kid. And came back after the Marine Corps.
Where'd you go before you went in the Marine Corps?
Ohio.
Ohio.
Up Canton area.
So you're a Marine.
Yeah, I had my time.
When did you start playing pool?
I probably started playing very beginning, probably 5th grade.
Mm.
Messing around with it, and then just all through high school, messing around with it.
Just hanging out with your buddies and stuff?
Yeah.
When did you start taking it serious?
When I got out of the Marine Corps and moved to this area, and then just started playing regularly.
Can you play at hard times?
Not then. I played at a local place here in Torrance most of the time.
Did you go through the whole league thing and all?
Not much league thing. I did mostly, at the time, straight pool. Big, because that was still the game. Let's say, there were 9-ball was the TV game, but the true quote unquote pro game was in the beginning anyway. When I was coming up, was straight pool.
Right.
So
I was watching straight pool the other night. It was, who was it? Earl Strickland against some guy. He was an old timer. I forget who he was.
Ervolino, the one where he's playing Johnny Ervolino.
Yeah, I think that's it. And they were saying Earl doesn't have a chance, that he's a newcomer and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this must have been a long time ago. Because Earl was like an unknown. He was just kind of shooting up.
Yeah.
I stumbled on that video and I was like, how come I never heard of this guy? I'm from the old days. I'm old. I should know this.
This guy's older than, it goes back. I mean, he was, there's not much video on him. Yeah. So.
He's a good player. Great player.
There's not much video on Mizrack, where those guys from back at, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, they were hiding.
But Earl was a newcomer. I think this was 1990. And Earl dogged an easy shot, and the guy that you were just talking about, he ran like 74 on him. And
yeah.
It made it look easy, too.
Yeah. DiLiberto played, if you hear his commentary, pardon me. Yeah.
Danny?
Talks about him sometimes. Yeah. That whole crew and back east, straight pool was the thing at that time, anyway.
Yeah, it sure was. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I know that it was all about straight pool, and 9-ball didn't start hitting until like the late 80s, I think.
Yeah. And I ended up going from straight pool more to one pocket because 9-ball has never thrilled me as a overall game. It was the quick gambling game, not the let's see how long and well you can play for kind of game. So.
Right.
And like I mentioned the other day, I originally liked playing old-fashioned 9-ball, where if you scratched, the ball came back up. You had that cue ball, behind the head string. You didn't get that advantage of the ball stays down and you get to keep going. So.
Yeah, the before Texas Express, which was also, I think, late 80s, everything changed in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to make it good for TV.
Right, it was for ESPN, my understanding.
Yeah.
So, and actually, Richie Florence came up with the game of Texas Express for
I didn't know that.
ESPN. That's the story I've heard anyway.
Probably accurate.
So,
But then it didn't take. Pool never really was big TV sport, but nine ball helped because it helped the attention span of the average human being was getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. So there was no way they were going to sit through a one pocket match.
yeah, if you're not hooked on this game, those other games, the longer games, are not going to. I guess it's like watching curling. So,
Right.
if you're not hooked on it and part of it, it's not exciting to watch.
Right. If you're not a player, you're not going to enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand why anybody would play pool or play golf. They don't understand what it takes to actually try to do it. They think you're banging balls around, so they don't have an awareness of what it takes to truly just hit a good stop shot.
Right. It takes one to know, and that's the issue. And the problem with nine balls, people watch it that aren't players, and they're like, "That's easy. Anybody could do that." And they don't know until they get out there and actually try to do it that it's not easy, and not everybody can do it.
Yeah, and it's not as easy as it used to be. When the standard pocket was 4 3/4 inches, let's say, for a standard pocket. And now, anywhere you go, you're going to find half the tables are at 4. Some of the places I play at, the one pocket tables are at 3 7/8.
Oh, that's a small pocket there.
So, needless to say, I rattle a few.
So I know you as mostly a one pocket player. Is that accurate? This is what you're known as.
That's what I typically play. I play in some of the simple handicap 9-ball tournaments once in a while, and I do okay in those. I don't typically go out and play in a lot of the tournaments all the time on the weekends. That time gets taken up, and most of the tournaments, I play the ones during the week that I can play, or I play. I always try to play the monthly one pocket out at hard times, and then I play now with regular group of people over a smaller pool hall, actually in a bowling alley at Gardena Bowl, and there's a little action going on here and there, but mostly it's a bunch of good guys playing the game and trading stuff off, and there's always something going on, but it's not usually too big.
Right. So I hear you're moving out of California. Is this correct?
If I get getting everything worked out right, yeah, I'm going to try to probably end up in Texas.
Texas? What part of Texas? Texas is a big state.
Yeah, no, somewhere in between Austin and Dallas, out in the hill country.
Both great towns. Been to both of them. I like Houston, even though it can be really rough. If you know where to go and where not to go. I really like Houston. I don't know, there's something about Houston that just attracts me. I'm not even sure what it is.
Well, what's interesting about that, the reason I picked hill country is I have family in Houston, I have family in Dallas, I have family in Arkansas. So I was looking for where am I a day's drive, simple drive or half a day's drive to different places,
Right.
And because tournaments are in Houston, tournaments are in Dallas, and there's some other tournaments and all around that area, and I have no clue of all of them. When I go to Houston, I've only played in a few of the different pool halls, and interesting thing about it is a lot of them I found have 8-foot tables, not 9-foot tables.
Yeah.
That's different.
It's a tough pool city, and it always has been. It used to be Tampa in the early '90s. Tampa, Florida had like 12 pros living there, and Florida had a Florida Pro Tour, so a lot of players kept going through Florida. So Tampa was a big. Nowadays, it's all about Ohio. But Houston is still, Earl Strickland says Houston is the toughest city to play pool in America, period. He still says that to us.
Yeah. I heard Jeremy commentating and said something similar. It's you still get all you want in Houston.
Yeah, if you're a pool player, you need to bring your A game to Houston because it's got action. I want to take a little bit of a break here. I'll be right back.
But anyway, okay, back to that question. Who got you started on this crazy game?
I think I just stumbled onto it, Mark. When I was a little kid, I was delivering papers to a pool hall. And I also have this in a vlog. The whole story where I was introduced to pool is in a vlog called The Soul of Pool. And one day it was real cold and I was delivering papers. I didn't even know this was a pool hall.
I did see this.
Yeah.
Okay. And they invited you in. You said you were cold and they invited you in and let you sit there and watch the players.
Right. And that was my introduction. Up until that point, I had heard people talking about it, but I had no concept of what it was. But it wasn't in... And I find the whole thing fascinating, how it was kept out of society and pushed back.
Right.
That only bad people do that, which intrigued me. I was a curious little kid. But when I got into my teens, the Hustler magazine. Remember Hustler magazine?
No, I've never heard of it.
Well, Larry Flynn and his boys, Flynn, whatever his name was, they did an article about Larry Lisciotti.
Oh, okay. I know who he is.
And I don't know, I think I was like 13 years old, and I read what he does and how he does it and what it's all about, and I said, that's what I want to do. And that's when I dove into pool. So he's somewhere around 13 or 14. But I was always curious about it up until that point. And then after reading that article in Hustler, it's like, I know what I'm here to do. And this is what I'm here to do. School doesn't matter. Nothing matters. This is what matters. And I decided that's why, because it represented freedom to me. Like, I didn't have to live by anybody else's rules. I could be Larry Lisciotti.
Right. Well, I can't remember what year it is, okay? But there is a YouTube video on of Mike Siegel playing Larry Lisciotti. I believe this is correct. And Larry runs, he breaks, and I think Larry was winning the tournament. And he breaks, or leading the tournament, I should say. He breaks, and Mike runs 150 and out on him. And then I think Mike met him again in the finals and beat him. And Mike then won the world, I think it was a world, straight pool. And the next year, Larry won. So he came back and managed to win it.
I think that was the year that Hustler ran, because nobody knew who Larry was until he won that real big. He was hustling. The old-fashioned hustler way. He was running around the country gambling and grinding and hustling people. And then he decided to get in a big tournament He was a virtual unknown in the big leagues, and he wound up winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hustler interviewed him after that tournament. It was like, what the hell are you? And Larry kind of tells his whole life story, and I related to it so well because I grew up in poverty in Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I was like, that's who I am right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine went in a little different way, but as we were talking earlier, we ended up putting a pool table in the basement.
Oh, you got your own pool table.
When I was in like 5th grade. Yeah, 4th, 5th grade.
So was your dad a pool player?
No, not really. But my grandfather was a pool player. And so Grandpa, we were down there, and it was hit it here to stop it, hit it here to make it go forward, hit it here to make it go backwards. Don't worry about anything else, right? And that's kind of where it started. And then all through high school, just bar tables, and then you get into the pool hall, or you get in over at the bowling alleys, as we talked about. Always used to have a lot of pool rooms associated with bowling alleys.
Yeah, not so much anymore. There's some still around, but yeah.
They were usually the big Brunswick centers because Brunswick was promoting both.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But, and then I hear stories from my uncles about my grandfather not coming home from work, but going to the local pool hall after work and then coming home with more than his paycheck. So I don't know. I can tell you this story about my grandfather, though. He taught me basics, and that was it. And then I was off on my own. But one time when he was about, I'm going to guess about 78 years old, I went home and I went over to visit, and I grabbed him and I told my grandma, I said, we're gonna go up at the bowling alley up there and play some pool and have a couple beers. And she just smiled and she goes, oh, he'll love that, because he liked his beer, but he didn't get any anymore, right? With the way life was. Mm-hmm. So we're up there and he's having a couple of beers and playing pool. And we're just playing 8-ball, right? Nothing crazy or whatever. And he couldn't tell which balls were his. And he'd look and he'd say, Mark, is that ball there mine? I go, yeah, that's yours. Wham! Right in the hole. He couldn't read the number. He couldn't. I go, and he go, how about this one? I go, yep. Boom. In the hole. Right? And now this guy has worked his whole life with his hands, hard labor. He had arthritis. He couldn't even hold the cue the way he used to. And he would just cradle it this way. He couldn't really make it. He's firing shots in. I'm just going, how do you perceive? Because he couldn't read, couldn't see it well enough. Now, granted, it was probably a 5-inch table, 5-inch pockets on a gold crown in that type of, probably the gold crown twos that were in those billiard centers or bowling centers. But once he knew which ball was his, he could tell what angle that was and make that ball an hole.
So your grandfather inspired you to be a pool player?
Yeah, to keep playing it and going on, That's all I did. And once I got out of college here, I was working and going to school at night. And once I got out of college, then I just started playing pool more and more. And working with some of the local people because, like I said, straight pool I learned a lot from the owner of the pool hall that I used to go to all the time. He and I became good friends and, learned all kinds of little things about the game. I remember when I first learned, which a lot of people, it's all in the books. To me, the best book ever written was 99 Critical Shots of Pool.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Who was it? I forget his name. Well, I know it wasn't Mike Siegel. Who?
Before Siegel.
Yeah, but it's in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget.
You give up already?
I give up.
Martin. Ray Martin.
Ray Martin, yeah. Damn.
So
Damn, I
that
wish.
was, to me, was one of the best books because it shows you so many different shots.
Yeah, people still talk about that book.
Oh, it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
It was like the first real pool player.
Yeah, right. It broke it down. Yeah. Gee, which ball is important in a combination?
Plus, it's
The third ball, not the second ball. People don't, when you learn those little itty bitty things and you go, well, no wonder you can't miss that shot if you know how to play it.
It spoke to pool players like they hadn't been spoken to. Like you could read an instruction book on how to make a bridge, but you could tell the writer wasn't really. Ray had a way of hitting home with real pool players.
Yeah, it's to me still one of the best books.
Yes, yeah.
If somebody asks me, about playing pool, that's the book I tell them because it tells you how to see it and how to make shots. It doesn't tell you how to stroke the cue stick.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to do this, but it tells you the shots.
Yeah.
And there's so much in there, how to see a carom shot, how to understand a billiard shot, because they had to play them playing straight pool.
Yeah.
You don't have a shot, well, you look for a different way to make the ball.
Yeah.
It was pretty important. So.
I think the next best one was Buddy Hall released a video, and he runs 10 racks and 9 ball. I forget the name, but it's called Buddy Hall 9 ball.
Right, Buddy Hall 9 ball. I have it here somewhere. So yes.
I used to have that on VHS.
Well, that may be the way I have it.
I just wore that puppy out, and then it was stolen off me too. By a pool player who was traveling. I was putting this pool player up. He was coming through Knoxville. And I put him up in my apartment. And he stole one thing. And that was that VHS video, which was... I mean, it got jammed up. It was all bent up. It was worn out. And I was like, if I could take it, I'll just buy another one. But I think that video changed my life. Because Buddy really... he runs 10 racks, and he kind of does what I do in my videos. I think this is what inspired me. And before he shoots every ball, he tells you what kind of English he's putting on it, why he's putting on it, what he's trying to do with the cue ball.
Well, he kind of gets down and he goes, now this is how we do it.
This is how we do it. With that southern accent. Yep.
Yeah, I have it here somewhere. So. Good video.
That's a classic there.
So, okay, what was my next one? I got a couple about because you play, let's just say a little better than I do. How do you adjust on a bad day? When you're not playing well, what do you do to get yourself without the old school get pissed off at your opponent concept? Because that does work. If I bet,
yeah, that does work.
I usually play lights out for about 2 or 3 racks, and then I go back to being normal.
I try to figure out if it's mental or physical. That's the first thing I try to do. Sometimes we're just not in the right frame of mind to play pool. And, I mean, you can grind it out and keep playing it, or you can go home. So that's a mental issue. If maybe I went back to, I used to keep my elbow like this.
Okay, a little inside, yeah.
And instead of like this.
Well, what is Efren's elbow?
Efren does that too. Yeah, Efren, so does Bustamante, and even...
They're all inside. They're all inside. But you know what I noticed about most of those guys? They're all cross-side dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So they pull it seems like I think they're all left-eye dominant, so they pull the cue in to get it under that eye.
Yeah, and also at the last minute, you know how their shoulders are all loose? And they're doing this shit right here?
Right. They lock it up at the last minute.
Right at the last second, they're locking that elbow up. So they're doing this, and then on that last stroke, they're locking up and going. So you never notice it because you're watching the shot.
Right, right. Well, I did notice that myself anyway, and that all of that stuff they do to kind of get loose at first, they come down on the last shot, they stop, none of that shit moves again. It's just a straightaway stroke.
Yep, but their elbows are still like this, which
Yeah.
I can't explain that. I don't know.
Look at Orcollo. My God, his elbow's so far in. You know, you'd think they were sidearming it, but the other thing that I noticed, because this has been in the last years a lot of stuff that I studied. So if you'll notice somebody that has their elbow over the cue, they typically will have their wrist where the cue is under. Whoops, here. Let me do it this way. They'll have their wrist in a position where the cue is in line with the wrist bone. Now, if you look at the guys that tuck their elbow in, their elbow's in, and then they'll bend their wrist so the back of the wrist is straight, so that now the wrist is hanging straight down. So it's not out here going around in an arc. It's down so that when they go, it goes straight back and through more.
Yeah, I get it.
So if you actually pay attention to the mechanics of that, but if you're over the cue, you don't want your wrist tucked in. You're going to want the cue laying right here, straight underneath the head, in the pocket of the hand.
Right.
Like, to get it up high enough here.
Right.
So
I think the fundamentals on that issue with the elbow, the forearm, the top arm, and everything in line, I think the best is Jason Shaw and Josh Filler, both of those guys. Everything is in line. If you watch them from the top view camera, shooting down, everything is perfectly in line. And this is why these guys are just world-beaten champions.
well, you know, if you, yeah, great. Mark Wilson, if you watch his stuff too, he is a big proponent of everything is in line. Because, yes, you can do it other ways.
Sure.
Right. And if you have time to work on those other ways, and those other ways are going to go over here and over here and back here, and maybe they're here more than not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get everything in line, it can't get out of line much.
Right.
So
it's more.
You have less mechanical problems.
Right. You're going to win more tournaments. You're going to win more gambling matches. You're going to be more consistent than the guy who's just like doing crazy shit.
But here's an interesting question about that, because you mentioned it in one of your last videos, maybe 2 videos ago, about your forearm. And my question is, should the forearm be 90 degrees to the cue, or should the forearm be 90 degrees to the floor, so that the forearm is always hanging with gravity, straight down, as opposed to with the cue elevated, your arm is going to be back a little bit. Where is the right position? Because people always say, oh, 90 degrees, but it could be. It doesn't make sense to be 90 degrees to this part of the arm, because if you're a guy that gets down real low, this part of the arm's up here. But one of the things I noticed is with the pros, most of them, is like when they're hitting a jump shot, this part of the arm is straight down. It doesn't go back here. It comes up here, so they got more.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm thinking that the mass of the arm just hanging, whichever your elbow is, if you're a low elbow, high elbow, the real place is to have that arm hanging neutral based on gravity, and that's where you grab the cue. And at that point, it should be neutral, and the cue tip should be at the ball. Now I screwed your game up. Now you gotta go think about this.
Yeah, now you got me thinking about it.
Hey, I think about this stuff all the time. It's what, you know.
It's hard to tell if you're right.
Yeah,
right arm.
It's not going to be but an inch or 2 different, and it may or may not make a difference.
If you're right eye dominant, you almost can't help but your forearm coming in with
A
your
little
elbow. My elbow's out here. You know, if you want that cue under your right arm, it's more like this.
Well, you'll turn your shoulders a little more to move the cue in.
Yeah, but then I can't get my eye.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to see. For me, I'm left eye dominant, and it's easy to get the cue there. But
And
are you
I
eye
see a
dominant?
lot of guys tilting their heads like this. A lot of players around here do that, not knowing that they need.
Yeah, but that is your perception of
I don't know. I'm going to pay more attention to that in my next few videos.